Ask the Messengers, the program that deals with substance abuse, real people telling real stories. Hosted by Pastor Lester Lewis, co-host Sharlese Wilkerson and Leroy Carey. Where there is addiction, there is a chance for recovery. We're trying to help save lives on Ask the Messengers.
Today, nearly 1 in 5 Americans are living with a mental health condition, from our children and grandparents to our veterans, co-workers, and neighbors. For all of us, our mental well-being is just as important as our physical health. But unfortunately, most of us don't know how to recognize the signs that someone is in emotional distress. And so many of those who are having difficulty can't get the help they need. Together, we can change this. We can start by visiting changedirection.org and learning the 5 signs that may mean someone is struggling and needs help. And then it's up to us to show compassion, to reach out, connect, help folks find the hope and the support they need. Together, we can change the story about mental health in America. Together, we can change direction.
Today on Ask the Messengers TV show, a little table talk with co-host Sharlese Wilkerson and street reporter Lashon Battle, where Sharlese opens up about her own struggles with mental health issues and how it has affected her life through addiction and recovery. Plus, entrepreneur and entertainer KG touches on some mental health issues within his own family that has affected his life as a child and even in his adult life today. Plus, Dr. Ural Hill Jr. is back with us and will give a psychological perspective on KG's story. Now let's go to Sharlese and Lashon for a little bit of table talk.
What exactly is mental illness?
Well, mental illness is it's a state of either depression, schizophrenia. There's a lot of them, but the most common ones are anxieties, depression, schizophrenia, and bipolar. And sometimes it makes you just so down, so depressed, you gotta subside it. And that's the thing, mental illness and substance abuse go hand in hand.
So that's a lot of people.
That is. That's mostly 80% out of 100 substance abuse users. They either gonna come with mental illness first, or they're gonna go through some type of tragedy where they're gonna have either long-term mental illness, or as they're recovering through substance abuse, some type of depressions come along as they drop off friends, as they drop off and memories come up, and having to go through things. You can have part-time mental illness. So mental illness is sometimes don't stay with you forever, and it's medically diagnosed.
So how old were you when you first got diagnosed? When did you know you had mental illness issues?
At 16, I wrapped up my daughter, tried to shoot my mother, took a bottle of relaxers and stabbed my dad in the chest with a fireplace poker.
For what? What set you off?
What set me off? I believe back then I had some type of paranoia. They did diagnose me with postpartum depression because I had just had a baby. I was 16. My dad had me committed, and I was Mark Carmel 2 South Wing. Yeah, and I stayed there like 4 months, did all through New Year's, everything. This is around Christmas time.
And you did all this before the drugs?
Before the drugs. See, before the drugs, I've been diagnosed with mental illness. And as I was a teenager and I started taking this medication and going to see doctors, I was very producive. I was going to school, I went to college, all that. But once I got my own house, I felt that I didn't need to take no more pills. And I stopped seeing my psychiatrist. I started smoking more weed. I started drinking a little bit more. Then I started stripping. Then there were lines before you get on stage. And then the weed wasn't strong enough.
So how did the mental illness with taking the medication and mixing it with the drug, how did that reaction turn out?
You know what? At first, the drugs, it made me have a form of schizophrenia. And it used to really make me scared. But I thought if I take my medication while still taking the drugs, it would stop that paranoia effect. You know, crack gives you like a tweaking. We call it tweaking. But it just did the total opposite, and it was more, and it made you use more. The medicine just don't work when you're taking drugs. So, but yeah.
Have you ever overdosed while taking the medication with the drugs?
No. Those type of medications are not really harmful, even though they mind and mood altering. They're not harmful like the drugs for pain, like Percocets and stuff like that. I mean, sometimes you probably could. I don't know, and I never heard of anyone who actually overdosed on, what do you call it, mental health medication. But it could be a possibility. But nah, it never happened to me. I just wouldn't take the medicine. I wanted to get high. But then once I got clean and I got back on the medication, you know, for years I took it, I was doing fine, chasing recovery, wasn't paying too much attention, but at some point, once again, I thought I was okay. Didn't take the medicine. And after a couple of years, the depression started sinking in. I noticed I wasn't cleaning my house right. I was letting people stay with me. It was just so much stuff going on in my head that at that point in time, I relapsed. And that caused me to go back and try to figure out. So what I learned in my second step is, Sharlese, you have a mental illness first, and you got to take care of that, and you got to take care of your substance abuse at the same time. Because without, they both go hand in hand.
Right.
You know, this is not no short-term trauma issue that caused mental illness. This is a long-term situation. And if you talk to many addicts, you will find out that they have some mental health issues before getting there. You know?
Well, the literature tells us that. It says we at least two people instead of one. Like, for me, like, with the mental illness, how the literature say we at least two people instead of one, yeah, I could think about three people inside of me.
Yeah.
I could think about three, maybe more than that. But the difference between you and me is you take the medicine and I take the steps, which balance me out.
But what some people don't understand, when they say two of you instead of one, of course, a normal person gonna have mood swings and sometimes don't want to be bothered, or when they're on their cycle and it's that time of the month, or having a bad day.
Right.
Mental illness is exactly different from that. Mental illness is you so messed up in your head and you can't think about, like bipolar. If you see the commercials, like the little girl said, "Mommy can't play with me anymore." She used the word can't because you physically can't. Just sometimes I cannot move and get out the bed.
So some people not diagnosed until after they get
unless they decide to go and get diagnosed. And certain medicines help. And then people say, I don't want to be in a zombie position. When we first start taking the medication, it takes a good 30 days for it to get in your system so you can have a normal day. But sometimes people don't want to go through that 30-day stretch. They figure that the word crazy or mental illness, they don't want to accept it. And a lot of people are misdiagnosed, untreated. It's a lot of people in the fellowship that's untreated. Or either just say, oh, you know, I'm an addict. Sometimes I forget, or stuff like that. No, it might be something there. It depends on you, how you feel in your fourth step, and you'll know if you had a mental illness, if you really have one. Well, Mental Illness Month is be coming up in May, so hopefully we'll come up with some more ideas and to tell you and get some people on here. They can tell you how a day in the mental illness world is like.
Ooh, baby, I got my own world. But we'll be back with more on Ask the Messengers.
You know, this message for that person out there that's fighting depression, fighting the struggle, that's going through one of the hardest times of their life, that feels like life is over, that doesn't want to see tomorrow, doesn't feel like they have the strength to even make it to see tomorrow. I just want to tell you, don't let this chapter that you're going through make you in your story. All right, there's more to be written. Don't let depression lie to you and tell you that you're not enough, that tells you that there's no more better days, that tells you that your best days are behind you, that tells you you're not worth anything, that tells you you're a nobody, that tells you that you're better off dead. Don't let it lie to you, because it's been lying to you so long that you're starting to believe that's true. You're starting to live that out. It's time for you to dig up all those seeds of doubt, all those seeds of lies. And at this moment, replace those seeds with seeds of faith. And how you do that is just simply this. How you fight your depression is just simply this. You tell yourself, yeah, I'm going through this, but at least I'm not dead. Yeah, I'm going through that, but at least I'm still alive. Find a way to find appreciation, because that's how you end depression. Somebody has it worse. Somebody wants your life as bad as you think that it is. Somebody's praying to be in your shoes. And you're still here. You're stronger than what you think. So I want you to keep fighting. You find any reason to survive right now. You find any reason, find it, to make it to see tomorrow. Because when you live, when you come out, when you get delivered from it, when you get free from it, what you're going through, it's going to give you a strength that's unexplainable. You're going to be one of the strongest people that your friends, that your family knows, because you survived something that killed a lot of people. You survived something that was meant to kill you. You made it through, and you're going to help other people make it through that same depression, make it through that same struggle. Because they're going to look at your life and think that it's possible, and know that it's possible because you survived through it. So you keep living. You keep fighting. And you keep the faith. There's better days ahead, I promise you. No storm lasts forever. Just because you had some bad chapters, just because this chapter is bad, doesn't mean your story can't end well. It all starts with you. I'm praying for you.
At 23, I fell into a deep depression, and I remember at that time, the only thing I wanted to do was clean the walls. I grabbed some cleaner and a rag, and for days, I would clean. I cleaned everything. It was just the only thing I can control.
This right here is kind of hard for me because I'm so private. Even though I'm in the spotlight when it comes to media, working with Chuck Bennett on 9, 10 a.m., or when it comes to even doing my own R&B music as well. I've come from a hard drug-filled background and mental, well, it's hard for me to even just mention it right now, you know. But in 2020 right now, we are facing an epidemic right now. A lot of my brothers and sisters, friends and family have succumbed to the effects of drug abuse. The last time that it was this deep was in the 80s when I was born, and it affected my father and our mothers and our futures, our past generation. And that's why it's so hard, because they say that, I heard a saying that says that we are born with our father's sins, and this is true, because I was born with my father's sins. And my story will show how basically without the right guidance and the village, if I didn't have the village, I could have been anything else. You know, like, well, my mom, her name's Tanya, she's a beautiful woman. Right now she's suffering from basically she's going through a lot right now when it comes to her mental status. I'm the second oldest of 5 kids. I grew up watching my dad beat my mom, and this is because of drugs. So, you know, it's kind of deep. I always wanted my dad in my life, but I never got a chance to have him. When my mom left him, she got with another dude, you know, and he was abusive to us, to me and my brother. He had kids of his own with my mom, but they was treated different. So it was just like I always was waiting for my dad, but I couldn't have my dad in my life because he was too addicted to drugs and stuff, you know what I'm saying? So the next time I saw my dad since I was 3 years old was in his casket. And it affected me quite different than it did my brothers. I cried. They didn't cry. They didn't feel nothing. I cried because I knew it was so many questions and so much that I was always waiting for him to rescue us from the situation, but he couldn't because why? He was stuck on his situation. Now, my dad wasn't just a crackhead. He was an awesome dude. He was, back in the day, they known him as Vinny Pimp. He was a social guy, and he was a part of the Ural Flynn group. So once I started doing my research, I got a little older, I found out that Ural Flynn back in the day had a thing called Saturday Night Special that happened right around the corner from my grandma stayed at. Saturday Night Special. The heroin was going for low. For the low. My daddy was Ural Flynn, so that's probably right. And everybody was so geek about him being Ural Flynn, but why? It my life up. Well, excuse my language, but it did. I didn't let that break me, you know? I didn't let my mom's boyfriends break me. I didn't let sexual abuse break me. I didn't let the fact that my mom lost her mind and was crazy by the time that I was 10 years old break me. I didn't let the fact that I had to raise my brothers and sisters break me because I knew that it was nothing else and nowhere else for me to go but forward. This is the epidemic that we are facing right now in 2020. It wasn't this strong this strong as it is now since the 80s. And we watching this. The perp, everybody doing perks, it's glorified now. It wasn't glorified like it was back then. They didn't glorify it back then, it just happened. But now it's glorified. So what's gonna happen to my brothers and my sisters and my people? We are affected by this the most. In fact, all of us are affected by this the most because our brothers and sisters from other races also is being affected by this because I don't know what's going on right now, but I just know we all need to stick together, be strong, teach each other, understand what's really happening right now, and to educate ourselves.
I just heard Corey's testimony, Corey NASA, and his last name is NASA. That's very powerful. That's the Space Center. And he described not only his issue, but he had a good take on the sociological aspects of what's going on in our community, and especially as it relates to Detroit. He talked about the Ural Flynn's. His father was in the Ural Flynn's, and why did everybody glorify that? I was a teenager when the Ural Flynn's were popular in Detroit, and I remember that gang culture and the gang life. And I remember what that did not only to individuals who got in the way of the Ural Flynn's, but also to the individual gang members and their families. He talked about growing up and seeing what he saw as a child. The personality is formed by age 6. He saw his mother getting beaten, not only by his father, but also by another guy. He also had some sexual abuse, and he had the substance abuse that ran rampant in his household. The one thing that he really, touched on was co-occurring disorders. And, we have integrated treatment. And when a person has both mental health and substance abuse issues, it's more complicated. And we've got to deal with those and treat those at the same time. Used to be that they were treated separately and the communities were separate. But Corey brings to the fact we need to treat the mental health issue just as well as the substance abuse issue, because if you treat one and not the other will come back to haunt the other. The last thing is, he said it didn't break me. And he got involved with a village that helped him through, and he's standing here today and trying to seek to tell the next generation, let's not glorify these drugs that are used today on the street. Marijuana has just been legalized. Perps are used on the street. Prescription drugs are the thing. He's here to tell you what that can do to the next generation. I want to congratulate Corey on his courage, and with a last name like NASA, I see him flying into space as he continues to help other people, which is a part of his healing. God bless you, Corey.
Crazy, delusional, deranged. But are they? Is this all you see when you hear they have it? Weird, stupid, bipolar. But are they? Is this all you see when you hear they have it? Depressed, druggy, mad, nervous, helpless. Their problem. But are they? Is this all you see when you hear they have it? Or is this all in your mind of preconceived boxes to trap them in so you'll never know what happened to them because you never bothered to get to the root of the problem. Why?
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Ask the Messengers TV show. As always, we do our best to bring you information that you can use throughout your daily lives. We hope the information shared today will be of help to you as you go through your own personal situations and finding your own way to a solution that works best for you. We also like to give a special thanks to Trent Shelton, a former NFL wide receiver and is considered one of the most impactful speakers of his generation. And we thank him for his Rehab Time series of videos that touch on many situations that we are faced with daily. In closing, in the words of our host, Lester Lewis, who is away on a much needed vacation, love is what love does. And we want to love you to life. See you next time on Ask the Messengers TV show.
Won't you help us to do exactly what our motto is, and that is to help save lives? Won't you send a generous donation to the information there on the screen? We would love to have you as part of our partnership to help save lives. You may not be able to go out in the street, you may not be able to come here to the show, but you can send your donation that helps us save lives.
When I grew up, you didn't talk about mental health or depression or anything like that. It was rough growing up, because I suffered from chronic depression.
I want to know from show of hands, thumbs up, thumbs down, if you experienced or saw some kind of bullying this year.
It was hard because I had people bullying me, like making fun of me. And then I start bullying people after they start bullying me.
I'm a cheerleader for getting professional help because it saved my life. And I'm hoping that this show can help minimize some of that stigma to say, hey, we're just like you. Just remember, there is hope, and you are not alone.